today in partnership with our close partners, ADA, as well as SoftBank Telecom. And, we're very happy to, share with you today some tactics and strategies to increase customer loyalty and ROI with unified data. So a little bit of the agenda for today, we'll start at the top of talking a little bit about, okay, why is unified data something that's essential? Then, next we're going to get, very briefly into the how, and then really the core of today's session is going to be on, those tactics and strategies. Okay, how do we really hands-on, start taking action with a variety of different use cases related to gaining value from the data that you have. And that could be things like whether it be focusing on great customer experiences or driving operational efficiency and more. We are doing this webinar live today, so I would invite everyone to please feel free to join in on the conversation. There's a Q&A function in the in the platform if you look down below, and there should be some time at the end of today to answer some questions. So please feel free to submit your questions about anything and everything that we're covering today, and very happy to dive into everything. But yeah, let's get started, and we can start at the top by talking a little bit of taking a step and looking at the picture. Okay, there's a lot of talk of first-party data, but why exactly do we need to unify it? And really, I think this unification is coming from, there's been a kind of raised expectations from the customers today. And, I like this, quote from a SVP from IBM that we can see here, that, the last best experience your customer has anywhere becomes the minimum expectation for everywhere. And, really what that means is that, all around today, we're coming into all kinds of new digital experiences, right? And whether it be with the apps or the services that we're using, and even if, depending on what our business is, we may not always think that we're competing with something like Grab or Netflix, but actually those digital experiences are affecting the expectations on the customer side of the kind of experiences and personalization that's being raised across the board now to all brands that they interact with. And more and more what we're also seeing is this expectation of this really one complete voice coming from a brand. And this can be a challenge depending on the different kinds of business units that the customer might be interacting with. And oftentimes, even as a customer, myself, of many different brands, sometimes we see, okay, if I'm interacting with customer service or sales or these different brand subsidiaries, many times there's, different, there might be a very different kind of experience for each of those channels. And sometimes there's fragmentations that happens. And I think a lot of us can, maybe relate to, different kinds of customer experiences that we had in the past where, maybe we are signing up for a new service and we call into one place, we talk to one business unit, and we spend 15 minutes giving all our information, then we get transferred to someone else, but we have to start from square one and input everything again. And, and then maybe, who knows, we get transferred to a third place, and, the cycle keeps starting again. And this can sometimes be caused by this, fragmentation of different systems, sources, data, etc. And it's, a lot of the reports we see is it's quite costly. Like, we can see from Qualtrics here is that, hey, more and more, because of this expectation of that one experience, there's, less you can say maybe patience for poor experiences otherwise. And if we can't solve some of these challenges, then perhaps that customer is going to take their business to a brand that is starting to provide that holistic customer experience. And from those companies that are making investments on both the data and the experience side, there is a lot of one of the topics of today, ROI, being generated that we can see. And we have a report last year from Gartner on CMO strategy that surveying various CMOs, and found that those that are making investments specifically on the customer experience and the data side are seeing revenue growth as much as 160%. But the reality is that still, as we talk to marketers, across the board, that yes, there's we need to know the customer, but a lot of the feedback that we do see is that still there's a lot of challenges with regards to siloing, the accessibility and democratization of the essential data, and more. And so the question then becomes, okay, really, what are the different tools and ways that we can start to bring all of this data together and really start forming what sometimes we like to call the connected customer experience, which was taking those different systems and silos and really tying them all together and forming a large foundation that we can then take action and drive ROI. And we're going to get into some of the tactics very shortly on how to do that. But before we really get into the core of today's session, we can talk very briefly on the how and what's driving that. And there's different ways to look at unifying the data. One potential solution is CDP's customer data platforms, and CDPs kind of came into prominence for this need of data integration and a need to break down those data silos and have a solution to bring all of those different sources together. It is kind of similar to a data warehouse or like a data lake. A very common question that we sometimes get is, okay, what's the difference between something like a data lake and a CDP, or a CDP and a CRM? And the answer to that is that CDP is kind of an evolution of the CRM, and that CRMs were very much focused on purely that transactional data, that sales data. But there's a lot of other sources of data that aren't able to integrate with this with the CRM. So CDPs don't replace the CRM. That's one data source that's going to plug into that. On this chart we can see the CRM is still there, but then there's a lot of other sources. It could be a contact center, it could be web behavioral data, all kinds of different systems that are connecting to it. And now the data warehouse is kind of like the build your own solution. So yes, you can connect everything in a data warehouse, but it's going to require a lot of time, a lot of work. It's going to require a large amount of technical resources. And that's also why CDPs came about as kind of more of a buy solution, that it's has a lot of these features out of the box already built so that you can very quickly start connecting all kinds of data. And then also has a UI that can be utilized by other kinds of, other teams or other business units, as well as pre-built functions for things like machine learning and more. So, this is one technology to handle, that unified step. But of course, after all the pipes been hooked up and everything's been unified within here, the big question is, okay, what do we do with it? So what kind of strategies can we make with that data once we've centralized it in one place, whether it be a CDP, whether it be some kind of data lake, or build your own CDP, like we're saying. How do we really try to maximize ROI and customer lifetime value with that unified data? So yeah, we're good. We've got a lot of material here to cover. So we'll be going through it fairly quickly, but please, if anyone has any questions, feel free to ask. And so we're going to go through some use cases, also some real case studies, and hopefully provide you some insights. So starting from the top, okay, how do we really get that good data foundation? And really, there's what we've seen is there's 5 key steps in this process. First, it starts with that purely the unification. So we're bringing all that data, unifying data into one place, and then once it's been unified, we're going to start to focus on deepening the customer understanding. One objectives during this unification step is to have one singular customer ID with all of the data that was residing in all these different systems or teams or business units lined up in one centralized place. Then we can then begin gaining understandings both on the customer level, but also the business level as well. Now, during this process, it's also essential to set up the right, safeguards for the customer data. So we live in a very privacy-focused world. One, of course, there's regulation coming into play all across Asia, but also, even aside from the requirements from the regulatory bodies, from the customer side as well, there's also a higher expectation of privacy today, and that today's customers are mindful that their data is being collected, their data is being utilized. They are trusting brands with their data to handle it responsibly, securely, and protect it, and then also deliver value back to them in exchange for that data. So once that infrastructure has been in place, then we begin empowering the right stakeholders to take action on the data and realize use cases. And for this step, CDPs also typically have an interface that's designed to be used by different business units, non-technical stakeholders, drag and drop, etc., that can help with that data democratization aspect. And of course, also going back to that point number 3, there's we don't always want to make all of the data available, right? So also CDPs have privacy and security features to be able to, control accessibility, make sure that the right stakeholders have access to the data that they need. Certain data can be anonymized, etc. And then the goal is to get to this, one experience that we see at the end. Now, with developing a strategy, it really is a journey. So, of course, we can talk about very advanced analytics and machine learning and things like that. AI is a very hot topic right now with everyone talking about it, but, that's definitely not going to be happening from necessarily day one, right? There's different steps that we're going to be taking, so this is kind of a map of, a data unification journey that that we sometimes see in that, okay, for this foundational stage 1, the goal for this stage is to really bring all that data together, identify, okay, what data we have, what are the gaps, who are, like how many unknown profiles do we have versus known, a little bit about the business and start, getting those initial insights. But then, we're going to move on to the next step. Quite commonly, the next step that we see is actually a focus on efficiency. So, can we try to decrease some of our marketing spend? Can we try and increase conversion rates, increase LTV, taking some of those key KPIs and focusing on, okay, can we tick them, a little bit higher? Once we get more comfortable with that stage, we might move to the intermediate stage. This is the stage where more personalization is coming in. So personalization, whether it be through messaging, it could be personalization of the website, it could be personalized, cross-sell or upsell recommendations and more. And then, the next step above that could be, we're starting to get into even more advanced analytics, starting to integrate machine learning more into our processes to do things like churn prediction, predicting, which kind of segments customers are likely to be in the future, and more. And so, there's really, going to be different steps to the use cases that we're going to be taking a look at. And then, besides, the different steps, there's also, lots of opportunities, across the whole entire customer journey to look at as well. Whether it be kind of higher in the funnel to the awareness stage, or, growing loyal customers on the other end of the funnel. I think it's useful to, take a step back and see and first examine, okay, what are some of the biggest challenges or kind of the biggest goals for my particular business. And really it does change depending on the brand. It's a lot to examine, and we're not going to be building a full strategy across the board from day one. It's very helpful to kind of think about, okay, what are maybe some one or two use cases that we're going to start with? Do we want to start at the top of the funnel in that awareness stage? Maybe it's that, hey, we need more lead gen. How do we generate more leads? That can come from a focus on efficiency. So maybe we want to focus the limited marketing spend that we have. I know especially in the past year or so, a lot of marketing budgets have really been strained across the board. So is there a way that we can try and identify who's likely to be our best customer, or who's likely to convert, and focus a majority of our marketing spend, just on those individuals? Maybe we're going to be focusing on the middle of the funnel, and maybe there's, okay, we're getting a lot of traffic to our website, but there's that conversion aspect. There's just not a lot are actually taking that step to become customers. Well, maybe there's a lot of creative things in retargeting with some very personalized retargeting or special offers that we can focus on this segment. Or, maybe it is, we've got a great customer base, but, we just are not utilizing that customer base to our full potential. Is there a way that we can reinvent our loyalty program, or try and, derive, better, get better experiences to, keep our most loyal customers engaged over the long term on, the right side of the funnel that we see here? And so, a lot of those are, points are going to be boiled down to different key KPIs. Oftentimes, one way to look at it is we could divide it into three categories. Okay, do we want to focus on that acquisition, that customer lifetime value, or the retention? And within these, there's going to be multiple different KPIs we could be examining. For the acquisition side, okay, maybe that lead volume is going to be key, that conversion rate. Whereas if it's the lifetime value, maybe we want to focus on that cross sell and upsell. So, I think the first step is taking a look at, okay, which of these in our organization do we really need to improve? And then start to examine or imagine different use cases that are going to be involved in that. And there's a lot of different use cases that are possible. We're going to go through, a couple right now. There's even more, more that, the sky's kind of the limit. So unfortunately, we don't have time today to examine all of them. But let's take a look. And now you might say that, okay, this is a lot on this list right here. We're not going to go through all of these. We're going to pick out a few of these and talk them. But these are some of the top use cases related to unification that we see. There's 32 of them here, but there's even more than this, and we can talk about more. We've kind of categorized them, according to the kind of the different steps. With first, okay, how can we start deriving value from that integration? Then moving on to the middle one, efficiency, and then that truly like connected customer experiences. So let's talk a little bit about the integration real quick. So we can see 8 use cases right here. That single source of truth down to the identity resolution, increasing known profiles. And then the kind of bottom 2 there are a little bit more focused on, the privacy side, right? Which is extremely important, that access control management and data compliance. I picked out, a few of them to talk about, with some, real examples that we can see here. So the single source of truth, what is that? This is a quite common challenge, especially with large organizations with many different brands or factors of their business. Could be that really just the customer data has been spread out everywhere, and one customer may be a loyal customer of many different brands or services, but we don't really even have insight into that because it's everything's operating independently. And this was a big challenge to a company like AB InBev here, which is like the world's largest brewing company that's managing over 500 different brands globally, and many of those were siloed with operating with their own customer data. And so one key goal that realized a lot of value was bringing all of that data together to that single source of truth to be able to see, like, okay, now this customer is loyal to these brands, or though this customer has been interacting with these brands, they are really focused on this one, and that's where we really want to focus on the promotion. And a lot of value can be derived just from those insights. During this process of the integration, this is also kind of feeding into the second use case that we see here, the deduplication of profiles. So quite common, also as people are registering for different brands or services, one person might be registered for might be existing as 3 or 4 different people in the database, because maybe they have used a couple different emails, etc., accessed it different ways. And another great driver of efficiency is being able to bring all of that data together and then focus on deduping, which we can see here, actually with a big focus on the section from the U.S. Soccer Federation. They were noticing that they had a lot of inefficiencies because there was just a large number of duplicate customers, and trying to clean up their bad or corrupt records can drive a lot of value. But really, to kind of start on that journey, it also has to be brought into a centralized location. And then of course, the privacy aspect, and that though we have an example of like a pet food brand here, that managing consent is almost essential for brands across the board, with not only due to the local regulation, but also with needs of the customer. They expect consent, and they want to be contacted if they give you the right to contact them via this channel. But that can be very difficult to do if the data is residing in all of these different systems, right? So bringing systems into one place, finding a way to have that centralized consent management, whether it be a consent management tool, or CDPs often might have a consent management solution built in, but a way to make sure that we really are respecting those customers' privacy preferences. Moving on to the operational efficiencies. So we talked a little bit about, okay, we integrate, we get the unified view, we dedupe, we set up the right privacy and security. Then we start deriving these insights, and then can take action to increase efficiency. Again, there's a lot of different use cases here. We'll focus on just a couple of them. One example could be, okay, what can we strategize utilizing lifetime value? So lifetime value, what is the value the customer is going to be in the long term? We have an example story here from Shiseido, well-known storied cosmetics brand. They were looking to really reinvent their loyalty program. And maybe in the past, they had one loyalty program track that everyone was going into. But is there a way that we can really develop different tracks for loyalty programs? And one way that they wanted to separate those tracks was based on brand affinity and lifetime value. So they looked at different past behaviors and attributes, and tried to analyze, okay, for these different customer segments who are most enthusiastic with our brand, who's kind of more middle of the road, who's not as engaged, and then developed different communication plans within the loyalty program accordingly. And after implementing that, saw a 20% increase in their in-store revenue and 11% increase overall, purely by trying to have this focus on that affinity for by measuring the lifetime value and applying it to the loyalty program. Now, another kind of way to look at the efficiency is not always just purely on that revenue side, but it could also be on the spending side and the marketing spend as well. If we look over here, we have an example from Maruti Suzuki in India, one of the largest automobile manufacturers, also utilizing CDP to drive efficiency. They were looking to find, okay, how do we make sure that we're focusing our marketing spend only on those that are actually in the market to purchase a vehicle? And in the past, if you're doing kind of just a large blanket marketing spend, then maybe you're actually hitting your current customers or people not really, in the market for a car as well. And so, they looked to, one, separate out those individuals who had recently made a purchase. And then, also try to analyze, okay, who's likely to make the purchase. And then, we can focus, the marketing spend on those individuals. And actually, they were able to cut their paid media spend by 30% without seeing, a drop in their sales, by just, trying to, separate out, who is not relevant to that, to that particular campaign. Now, for demand planning, now this is definitely going to be a little bit more on the advanced side, but we've been talking a lot about marketing and sales promotions, so far in today's discussion, but a lot of use cases with analytics can also improve logistics as well. So Stripe is a lifestyle retailer that's managing multiple different kinds of lifestyle brands. And, they found that they had a big challenge that a lot of lifestyle companies have, that lots of excess inventory, right? Unsold inventory in different retail stores. And so they thought, okay, we've got all of this, sales data and marketing data, even weather data, how that's affecting retail trends that we've brought together as well. Can we start to use like machine learning functions of the CDP on the procurement side? So they started trying to forecast the right inventory amounts per their individual stores. And reduce and optimize the orders accordingly. And they found they were able to save around 220,000 USD per year after implementing that, and reduced a lot of the excess inventory that they had. So demand planning is also can be a great use case for efficiency if you're combining a variety of data and then trying to come up with a forecast model to see, okay, how much products are we actually going to need? And, this isn't necessarily, this could also be on, the manufacturing side as well. Like how much products do we want to produce? Propensity to buy. Now, what this is this is a type of machine learning use case that's essentially trying to forecast who's likely to, make a purchase. Again, it's going to require a variety of data being centralized, but, how it works is it looks at, okay, from our current customers, what are some of their, attributes or actions or, behaviors that they've taken. And then, from like non-purchased, future potential customers, trying to identify, okay, who may likely to be like a good customer in the future. And, this is, one of the kind of common initial use cases of machine learning that we're starting to see in business more. The Stripe example was a little bit more advanced, but this one of propensity to buy, it's a little bit more easier to implement, as long as you have a couple different sources of data together, and you've got functions like either like within a CDP or another tool to realize it. And we see an example here of a confectionery brand that's decreasing their acquisition costs as well, by trying to identify the right audience that are likely to convert, and then really focusing their resources accordingly, just on those individuals. And I think one interesting application of this could be helping different kinds of different brands, but I think it's also could be quite applicable to on, the B2B side, as well, of trying to predict, okay, if whether it be different different contacts, or if you depending on the different service or product that you have, doing the prioritization of the customers or sales leads for your sales team of, okay, who do we want to focus on, who's most likely to make the purchase, would be kind of like that highly scored lead or opportunity, and trying to optimize accordingly. Now, continuing on through the further down the funnel to the connected customer experiences. A lot of other use cases here, again, picked out 4, but I think as I mentioned, we're going to have some time for Q&A. So hey, if we're not covering one of the use cases today that you see here, but would still like us to discuss, please feel free to call it out in the Q&A, and we'd be happy to also dive in and discuss it further. But for the, a couple examples from from this side, next best action recommendations. So what this is trying to also utilize machine learning to predict what's the next best preferred. It could be the preferred type of content, preferred product, or also preferred channel. So we have an example here with the shopping app that's trying to implement recommendations for the next recommended product after a customer makes a purchase. This is being powered by machine learning. It's segmenting the customers, predicting the relevant products, and then delivering a communication of, hey, maybe you want to purchase this. But we see this being implemented in other industries as well. It could even be for something like an automotive manufacturer, where, hey, you've purchased a new outdoor vehicle. Okay, we're going to recommend some kind of bicycle rack or outdoor some kind of outdoor accessory to go along with that, and just having an automated process to deliver that via email, etc., to the customer. But also what we do see too is that customers also many times have different channels that they prefer to receive the message, and maybe that could also be predicted. So we do see brands as well starting to segment out and predict, okay, for the next best point of communication, are these is this customer prefer something like email or WhatsApp, push notification, or even if it's a very large product, do they prefer talking with a salesperson over the phone or in store, and trying to optimize accordingly. Hybrid customer experiences, so omni-channel, also another big topic. And the more and more as we've moved into this now post-pandemic area, people are getting back into people are back, and retail is back at full swing. But that there's been a lot of investments on digital, and now we're starting to see kind of a blending of the two experience together. And quite commonly, I think a key point to bring those experiences together could be through the mobile app of the brand or store. But with that, it's going to need to be able to bring together data from a lot of different places. And we have an example here from Muji, who's taking their web data, their mobile app data, and their in-store data, because the application's been designed to be used in the physical store itself. Now they're attributing the retail purchases in store versus the purchases over mobile or the purchases on their desktop website, and then trying to gather a lot of purchase trends, based on those actions accordingly. Some of the things that they're trying to predict would be, one, the frequencies of purchases. So, which kinds of products are being purchased together. Maybe this is a good time to send a promotion if maybe someone's making some large home goods purchases that usually they're going to purchase together, but it's only once every 5 or 10 years when they move, versus products that are purchased more most frequency. They once they started kind of understanding these and optimizing their promotions, they really saw an increase in their both interactions and also redemption rates of their promotions, and saw a 46% increase in revenue over a 2-year period after investing more in these services. Going on to the bottom row here for improving the customer service. Now, sometimes we might be focusing purely on that marketing and sales, but also if we look at the start of today's session, and we were discussing kind of about the full customer experience. A lot of that customer experience may sometimes come in the form of the customer service experience when we call into a call center. And I told the story about sometimes being moved to multiple agents, etc., starting again from square one. But one example of someone who's solving that challenge, Asian Paints is the world's largest paint company. They were looking to bring together their web, sales, and also contact center, as they were launching a number of new services. They were originally a paint retailer, but also launching these new home consulting services. And so they wanted to find a way to, hey, can we integrate a lot of those insights from the retail, our retail customers, to the platform being utilized by the call center to help ensure a smoother customer experiences. That was able to assist with that. But also we are seeing a lot of machine learning starting to be implemented into the call center as well. So, we talked a little bit about the product recommendations, right? But maybe those next best actions could also be recommended to the call center agents to, better be able to anticipate and provide a concierge level service as someone is, say, calling in. Best time algorithms. This is, wanted to include, also one B2B use case here. And, this is for, example, for a, CPG brand who has a lot of different, B2B clients that they work with. But, one thing that they found was that, there's, especially if it's a global brand, right? There's a lot of times with regards to communication, there's just different preferences that people have. When they want to either speak or reply via email, etc. And so, they were looking to analyze, okay, what actually time is going to be best for all of our contact space to drive higher email conversion. But, we've seen other, similar cases of this, and things like it could be something, over the phone. Like maybe if it's something like a life science company who's working with, various healthcare providers, what's going to be, the best time to maybe call or pay a visit or communicate via email if they prefer. And so, but for this use case with this CPG brand, they were purely looking to optimize by email, taking a look at and trying to predict, okay, for our customers, this segment here is going to, reply in the morning. This will reply in the afternoon. This, this segment might be replying more in the evening, and trying to optimize accordingly. And they saw their actually a 19% increase in their click-throughs, and also 10% increase in overall conversions for a particular campaign once they were able to implement this. But I know we're almost at time today. Still have a little bit more content to go through, but I'll still be hanging on the line a little bit more to answer any questions. I do see a few coming through, but just with the time we had left, we wanted to kind of tie all this together with a couple full case studies that different brands are piecing together lots of these different tactics that we've been going through today. Some of them we've already mentioned. One of them being, Maruti Suzuki, who I mentioned. You can see on the top right there, the key use cases that they have been focusing on: that optimization, orchestration, lookalike targeting, which is trying to predict who's like their best customers and focus resources on those, and the suppression, and that they had a lot of different systems, as well as a large network of these dealerships, centralized a lot of those data, over 87 million customer records, and then with that focus on efficiency, drove a 200% higher click-through rates and 30% cost savings. Also, down in Indonesia, they had a lot of different sources of data and a lot of different manual processes. They look to tie everything together with CDP, but then also integrated a call center as well for their health products, and they were able to see an uplift in retention of customers for their service, after they were able to take some of those insights from those different systems and better assist their call center team to be ready to serve customers as they call in. Briefly mentioned the Shiseido case earlier, that focus on the reinventing the loyalty program, but some other things that they are doing is like churn prediction. And I mentioned there's segments of some of the customers who may not be very engaged, and with that churn prediction, you can look at re-engaging those customers. But also, one tactic that we do commonly see, we didn't really talk about it so far in the session, is machine learning for churn prediction, which is trying to predict customers who may be at risk for canceling service or going to another brand in the future. That could be one utilization that can help also keep that retention of those customers into the future. Asian Paints, who we also talked about with the, moving on to the new businesses like the call center. Some of the additional things that they are, additional tactics that they are engaging in is the paid media and social media lookalike modeling, which is, also trying to find within their paid media, predict, okay, who is like our best customers, focusing on efficiency on that. They are also using the AI machine learning best action prediction, to predict, the next best ways to communicate, or next best kinds of content to reach with customers and more. So, we're almost at time, but, to wrap up a little bit before the end of today's session, I know we went through a lot of content. I hope you found some of the use cases, very valuable. If you'd be interested in, diving into some more of these tactics, or, even discussing more use cases than, those ones that we went through today, please feel free to contact, our hosts, ADA and SoftBank, or Treasure Data. So a little bit of an introduction to us, in case you don't know us. Treasure Data, we are a customer data platform provider. We do focus on the technology aspect of that data integration and solving a lot of very challenging and complex use cases for a number of global and enterprise brands. We've won a lot of awards and recognitions for this segment, and really we're looking to solve the data complexity challenges quickly, delivering quick time to value in as soon as 12 weeks. With our CDP that's equipped with tools for data integration, identity resolution, has a privacy and governance suite, and also the tools to get the insights, utilize machine learning, and engage customers. If there happens to be some users of Treasure Data in the audience, a couple of our newer features that we've recently launched. We have a customer journey orchestration tool that helps with drag and drop journey planning for omni-channel across multiple different channels or touch points. And it can also adjust based to changes of the customer journey. So if somebody say moves to a particular action, they go in store, maybe their journey can pivot to another track. And also we have been very much working on enhancing our privacy and governance suite with the tools for global CIOs to help manage the preferences, access advanced security features that they need to protect customer data. But yeah, I know we're just about at time. I'd like to thank everyone very much for your time today. I hope you all got some interesting insights or some new ideas for different tactics to utilize data. And yeah, I'll be hanging out a little bit longer for any questions, or if you wanted to ask about any other of the use cases that we didn't get to today, please feel free to ask. But I already do see a question coming in, so let me address it now real quick. One moment. Great question. How do you, okay, I see someone raising their hand. If you can do me a favor and type out the question in the Q&A function, I'd be happy to pick it up, or you can put it in the chat. But yeah, happy to answer. But yeah, got one right here. A great question. How do you personalize content or services for unknown customers, or individuals who haven't registered yet? So yeah, that's really a great question, because of course, many times we have known versus unknown customers, right? For the known customers, these are individuals who have registered, they've given their name, email address, their PII, we know who they are. But then unknown, there still might be a lot of a lot of other visitors who are visiting our website, but they haven't given any information yet, right? So with certain technology like CDP, for us, we have a SDK that is going to help track behavioral history of the website or mobile apps, but it's also tracking the anonymous behavioral history with first-party cookies. And so actually those unknown records are being tracked, and those unknown records can still be personalized with that, whether it be maybe a personalization of the website or a certain kind of communication to help then in turn convert to that known profile later. And I think, also, there's been a lot of talk, I mean, for years, it seems like years now, because the goalpost keeps getting pushed back about the, the end of cookies. But I think one important distinguish is that's the third party cookies that are eventually going away. But for the time being, first party cookies are still going to be here. So yeah, utilizing the first party cookies through an SDK from something like a CDP, etc., is still one way to both gather some data on the unknown visitor, as well as engage in personalization. So hope that answered the question. But yeah, great question. Yes, if anyone, any other questions from anyone else in the audience, very much happy to, answer more. The one, one question that we commonly get could be, okay, at the top we were talking a little bit about build versus buy, right? What are the benefits to each option? Build, where we go through something purely like AWS, Google, Azure, etc., via going through something with the CDP. The benefit to the build option is you can form something that's a very, very customizable to meet your needs. But it's going to typically those projects have a very, very long implementation time, could be up to a year, and very, very technical, resource intensive. Now the buy side is meant to be a little quicker and a little bit easier. But that being said, I think one important distinguishing factor is not all CDPs are alike. So you definitely want to take care when you're choosing one. Some things to look out for if you're evaluating choosing a CDP. I think it's very important to have to choose one that is very, very flexible. So able to integrate a wide variety of data, but then also allow a lot of customizability once it has been integrated. To realize a lot of these bespoke use cases, because actually not all CDPs are as flexible, and really that high level of flexibility is what's kind of starting to provide a lot of the value that you would get with the build option. So if it's a very flexible CDP, then it can provide a lot of that value, but being a little quicker to implement and requiring less technical resources to upkeep. Another question. Thank you very much to the audience member who asked it. Another great question. How do we really convince? It could be clients or buyers about like the value of the data unification technology. Based on, it could be based on sales or reach. That's going to be that's a great question. It is a kind of like a challenging question, because the ROI is going to differ depending on the situation of the particular brand. I think it helps first to take a look at what are some of the biggest challenges for the brand or client. Is it that they need more conversion? Is it that the spend for the marketing is too high right now? And then based on that, there's going to be different samples, like some of the stories that we went through today, that can have some proof cases of value. I think to answer that value question, it's there, one potential way could be, also even to try and discuss, mapping out some kind of proof of concept of, okay, what are the challenges? What are the data sources? Okay, we currently have these sources, these 4 or 5 sources. Okay, we're going to try and bring all of this together. Imagine one of these use cases that's going to tick up that key KPI. Maybe that is, okay, we want to focus on doing a more personalized retargeting campaign to try and convert create more customers. Or maybe it's, we're trying to raise the lifetime value of the customers in the loyalty program. I think there's a lot of past examples from other brands to draw on that, that could be some examples of potential ROI. But then, we are going to need to, put together maybe like some kind of test case to take a look at. I think one thing that we do see is that, we do see a trend that, investing in data is providing a lot of value, both from the stories that we went through today. Also, a number of the reports from various industries, like we have like the Gartner CMO statistics like here that was saying like CMO surveys was that, that investment was, driving 160% increase in revenue. But of course, there are, costs associated with this, both in technology as well as people, the resources. So, it is an investment, but going back to and kind of tying back around to the start of the discussion, the investment is becoming, more and more essential based on the expectations of customers, and that, they're more and more looking for brands who understand them, are able to deliver a great digital experience, and also have this full holistic experience, and that's really tailored to meet their needs and deliver the value that they're looking for. So that's really driving a lot of brands to evaluate their digital strategies and plans, and especially kind of like really the key foundation to the digital strategy is going to be that data foundation that's lying at the bottom. And so, having the right technology, the right people, the right processes in place to take action is really essential. So, I know I covered a lot of ground with that question, but, it's a great question. It is going to depend on the client, but, hopefully there's some, stories that can help, with that conversation, as well as, a lot of, there's just, a lot of potential of different strategies to explore, like we see, with these use cases here. But yeah, great questions. I know we are going a little bit over time, so if there is no other further questions from the audience, we can get ready to close out. But happy to continue the discussion if anyone is interested in diving into these further. Please feel free to reach out to us, Treasure Data, or ADA, as well as SoftBank, and we would be happy to really explore a strategy that's tailored to your particular challenges, together. And with that, I'd like to thank everyone for taking some time out of your afternoons today to join us and discuss, and hope to see you again soon. Thank you very much. Have a great day.